I'll be honest, my eyes immediately go to the defensive secondary the first time I get there. Sidney Brown from Illinois. Sidney Brown from Illinois reminds me of former Bears safety Mike Brown. That's how he plays. He is an absolute tone setter. 5'10", 213 pounds. And he talked to people down there. And his dedication in terms of his nutrition, the weight room, his note-taking, what he does to prepare his body and prepare his mind to play football is outstanding. And that's someone you want on your football team. One, because he's going to make an immediate impact on the special teams. We know how many teams now play three safeties in their sub packages. You watch the tape. I went back and watched the tape last night coming home on the plane, and he's around the football for a reason. And I've told you guys, that doesn't happen by accident. So he's very instinctual. He was excellent in one-on-ones. Look, the Senior Bowl is tough for safeties. It is very tough. All these all-star games are, because one-on-ones, you're not going against – they make you match up against wide receivers. And these are some of the best seniors in the country. These are guys that are going to get drafted. I thought he was excellent at one-on-ones. It's one thing to cover. It's another thing to have an understanding what coverage means. And what Sidney Brown did is he would press, he would play off, but he had a great feel for where routes break. And every route outside of a three-step passing game breaks between 12 and 15 yards. He was on top of it. He can match speed down the field. I thought he was excellent. A tackle to watch, Dawand Jones out of Ohio State. Now listen to these measurements. 6'8", 375 pounds. His wingspan is 89.5 inches. That's a record for the Senior Bowl.
Jeez.
That's a record.
Yeah, Eric Edholm was saying the same thing. He said it's so enormous. And even on a football field, even to other football people, they say, oh, my God, is that guy enormous?
Yes. And look, when you have that size of a frame, you're going to have limited foot quickness, right? But when you have that length and that frame, that overcomes that limited foot quickness, because you can build a wall on the edge. If you take the proper angle, you're gonna limit edge rushers because they simply cannot get around you. Okay, and it's not really technique; it's the frame at the point of attack. Keion White, the defensive end from Georgia Tech, I think was the best player down there, and that's the one for Bears fans to watch because I do think he's a defensive end. And the way he came off the football, and that's the first thing that jumps out when you watch an inside run team, and especially one-on-ones, who can get off the football, both sides of the ball, and have some counters at the point of attack. I thought Keion White, he really, really helped himself this week. Wide receiver Jaden Reed, who played at Naperville Central for Michigan State, dominated one-on-ones. And when you're watching one-on-ones, you look for a couple things. Now, everyone wants to see the deep ball throws, and that's great. Can you separate vertically? Jaden Reed can separate vertically. But you really want to watch underneath and at the second level. How do they set up defensive backs in coverage? What is their lower body agility like? Can they change directions? Are they sudden coming out of their breaks? Can they win running in breakers where, as we've talked about all season, that's where the NFL game is going, throwing between the numbers. He really jumped out to me because not just the wins he had, but how he won. I'm obviously going to mention Riley Moss from Iowa, because Riley Moss from Iowa went down there as a technician in coverage, played for Phil Parker in Iowa City, is going to be excellent on special teams, on kickoff coverage, playing on punt and punt return, impacting your core special teams unit. I think that's someone that can develop, especially in a zone defense. So again, you're talking about Chicago, someone in the middle rounds. You want someone, Dan and Lawrence, who have zone vision. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that they get a jump on the ball. They can get to their drop or get to their depth, read through to the backfield, and find out what the intentions are of the quarterback, where his eyes, where his shoulders, and that gives you a jump to make plays in the football and the tackle. And if you play football in Iowa City for Phil Parker, you have to tackle or you're not going to be on the field. Those are just some of the guys that really jumped out to me. And this is the thing about the Senior Bowl this year. And you ask anyone down there, there's not a ton of first-round talent at the Senior Bowl this year. The quarterback talent was not upper level at the Senior Bowl. You didn't have a Josh Allen down there this year. But this is where you build your football team. This is why the Senior Bowl matters. This is why the East-West game, that's why that matters. This is where you find guys really on day 2 and day 3 that are going to give you roster depth. They're going to improve your special teams. They're going to be key backups. They're going to play because the season's so long now. These are some of the players that will play 7-8 years in the National Football League.
Matt, we know that you cover the entire NFL. And when you come on and you talk to us about the Bears, you're doing extensive tape breakdowns. But you always say, hey, I'm not up there. I'm not at Haugh. But this week,
You were in proximity to Luke Getsy, so you got an opportunity to kind of see how he operates. What did you learn?
Well, I think that's a great question, Lawrence, because I think this is a challenge. I always try to put myself in a coach's position, right? And with Coach Getsy, because you don't have your full staff down there, right? This isn't the full Chicago Bears staff. So he is managing not only personnel, but other coaches, right? In terms of how he wants his practice structure, when they're going to have individual, how they're going to do special teams, what drills they're going to do during special teams, how he's going to install an offense in a day and a half, right? You know, the first thing about the Senior Bowl is, can you get out of the huddle? Because you have to think about this. You got players from all over the country, and especially quarterbacks who played in spread systems. Now they're under center. Now they're running play action boot. They're doing different things. 3- and 5-step drops from under center. Route tree is different. I thought he did an excellent job. I thought the practices had tempo. I thought they were fast. I thought they were physical when they needed to be. And I thought there was an understanding that we're not going to put our teammates at risk. I mentioned Sidney Brown. There's a couple times when Sidney Brown could have laid some guys out. There's no question about it in terms of his top-down speed. But either Coach Getsy or the position coach getting this information from Coach Getsy is that we're not going to do that in our practices. And I thought that was smart. You want these guys to compete. You want them to play fast because there's every NFL personnel down there. You also have to understand that after this, they go back to training for the combine, and what we just talked about, if you're a defensive back or wide receiver, how important that 40 time is. You don't want to come out of here with injuries. And I didn't see that at all in terms of putting players at risk. I thought that was very important.
And what do you look for in the game, if anything? Because so many people have said the practices matter so much more than the game.
They do. The practices matter, Dan, because you get one-on-one situations, right? And here's another thing. You can control 2 minutes. They do 2-minute drill. You can control res. You might not get those situations in the football game, right? I think what you're trying to look for is, because it is basic. You cannot blitz on defense. You can play cover 1, cover 3, cover 2. That's it. So it is an advantage, I think, for the offense. So if I'm looking at it, you want to see alignment and assignment. You want to be able to talk to Coach Getsy and say, what did you run? How did you run it? And then take that back and look at the tape and say, did this prospect get to the proper route there? Right? Did this defensive back get to the top of numbers where he's supposed to be in cover 2? Did he tackle? Does he have good technique? What are some things I can correct? But I still think, like you said, Dan, the practices have more value because they're controlled game situations, and you have the one-on-one aspect to it as well. And they're going every day. So you can see also his conditioning levels. I'll tell you what, the first day of practice was Tuesday. It was getting up towards 80 degrees down in Mobile. It was hot. So their conditioning level was being tested as well.